What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 12 of the Box Out Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Mendez. Thank you all for tuning in. We are nearing the end of the first part of the season. Now, it's not a halfway point, but most people call this a trial season for the NBA. But after the NBA trade deadline, this is where the real NBA season begins. After NBA All-Star Weekend, this is where the real season begins. This is where players start to get into the grooves. This is where you see the teams are going to compete for the playoffs for those who aren't. And I'm just very excited to see this next brand of basketball. Obviously, we had a very eventful trade deadline. You know, a lot of teams were changed. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving went to the West. It had a 3-team trade with Utah, Los Angeles, Timberwolves. I mean, a lot of stuff has changed in the NBA. And we are going to see totally different teams this after the NBA All-Star weekend. You know, and I'm very excited. I think this is probably going to be one of the more entertaining back end of the seasons, even for those teams that aren't competing, such as like Utah. I think Utah is going to still be very fun to watch. You have Walker Kessler, you have Lauri Markkanen. It's going to be fun to watch, but obviously they are not competing for a playoff spot. They are competing for Victor Wembanyama. That just means they're going to lose a lot of games. So while we're talking about this new NBA, I want to talk about these new look teams that we're going to be seeing. Let's start off with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, they obviously started off the whole NBA trade deadline by trading for Kyrie Irving. They lost a significant amount of depth, and that's going to be a problem for the Mavs that we're going to see. But as a duo, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic look unstoppable. Luka was already unstoppable. Kyrie Irving was already unstoppable. But together, it's just who you going to guard? Who you going to double? You can't really do that. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are the first duo in NBA history to average 30-plus points. Both of them to average 30-plus points, like individually. So I think Luka is averaging 31. Kyrie Irving's averaging 30.6, something like that. But they are balling out as a duo. But as a team, when they play together, they're 0-2. Kyrie Irving won his first game by himself with the Mavs. Luka Doncic lost his first game without Kyrie Irving while he's on the team. You know what I mean? He lost a game recently. But as a duo together, they have lost both of their games. Now, there's one game where, they're still working it out. I think they scored 28-27. They lost to the Sacramento Kings. Again, a great playoff team. I'm very excited for their future and to see how they're going to shape out this NBA season. Well, I'm going to see where they fall after the NBA All-Star break because the Suns might overtake their spot. Mavericks might overtake their spot. But I'm still positive that they're a playoff team and a team that could go far into the playoffs. And if you watch these games with the Mavs, Sacramento, that's a good loss. Like, I'm not going to fault you for that. But a loss against the Minnesota Timberwolves, it was a 124-123 loss. Now, obviously, they lost D'Angelo Russell, one of their young guards. They lost they didn't lose a whole lot. They gained Mike Conley, a veteran presence in that locker room. But throughout this whole game, it was very clear, very evident that the Minnesota Timberwolves were a better team than the Dallas Mavericks. They were dominating the whole game. But then Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic turned it on, and they were unstoppable. Like, the Mavs at one point were down like 15, 20 points. And then Luka and Kyrie turned it on and just like, hey, we're still those dudes. And they went on a crazy run, like, fast break, stop, pop, hit a three, or I'm going to, shake you up, put you in the blender, and then get an and one. But obviously they just fell just short. And this is the problem with this team is they are not built to last. I don't know how else to explain that, but they're not built to be a successful team for the whole 60 minutes. They're just not. They're not built that way. If it's ever a close game, I'm picking the Mavs. Unless it's against the Suns because you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Nobody's going to stop the duo of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Nobody's going to stop them. But when they're on the bench, I mean, I can stop Christian Wood. As a coach, I'm saying I don't care who's on my floor. They can stop Christian Wood. They can stop Tim Hardaway Jr. And so the Mavs have a problem there. They have to be very active in this buyout market. They might need to cut somebody and just say, hey, listen, you're the back end of our rotation. We need somebody better. Maybe somebody like Will Barton, maybe somebody like Patrick Beverley there's no beef. I don't really know. Patrick Beverley has beef with a lot of players. There's a reason why he's not a Phoenix Sun right now, even though I would kind of like him. There's still obvious beef between players there, so he's never going to be a member of the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, that's just the one thing I saw with the Mavericks I wanted to talk about is just this team is not built to last, and unless they do something during the NBA buyout market, I don't expect this team to go very far into the playoffs. Moving on, though, another team that made not a crazy trade, but they made a very good trade for the team, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. They traded Russell Westbrook away. They got Jared Vanderbilt. They got Malik Beasley. They got D'Angelo Russell back in Los Angeles, and they look to be a great team. One of the things that LeBron fails to do sometimes as the GM, as some people call him, is that he wants to surround himself with superstars and just says, oh, we can just sign shooters to minimum contracts. Now, obviously, these past 2 years have proven to LeBron that you cannot do that. And you got a guy like Russell Westbrook who is not known for his shooting or not known for playing off the ball, and you have not been successful at all. LeBron realized that and it's like, we had the opportunity to move, and they only traded one of their first round picks. NBA analysts call them the most valuable picks in the NBA, and it's top 5 protected or top 4 protected. So, I mean, it's such a great trade for the Lakers. They got so much depth. They got shooting. They got playmaking. Now they're 2-1 with D'Angelo Russell on the roster, but they won their first game when they had the big three. So I believe LeBron was missing the first game. And with LeBron in the fold, they won their game last night. D'Angelo Russell is averaging 17 points on 45% shooting from the field and 38% from three. That's not bad. He's one of the better 3-point shooters on the Lakers right now. And he fills a huge hole for them. Now, D'Angelo Russell, as I've talked about, he provides playmaking. That's what he was known for in college. He was a very great assist guy and someone that could facilitate the offense. When LeBron's off the floor, because LeBron is a great facilitator. But when he's off the floor, or when he needs a break from facilitating, just wants to score, you give it off to D'Angelo Russell, and he can work that offense and create a good team. Jared Vanderbilt, a very underrated part of this trade. He's a very great defender. He's a great cutter, injects energy and youth into that bench, and just makes the Lakers so much more of a scary team. Mo Bamba is just taller Thomas Bryant. I don't understand. I'm still baffled by the Thomas Bryant trade. That trade really makes no sense to me. He was kind of balling out. I think they traded him for a second or something. It was a trade that never needed to happen, and they could have gotten more in return. Mo Bamba is just a taller Thomas Bryant. I would argue that he's probably a better shot blocker, but you didn't get much. You didn't move the needle at center. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, he has a killer song named after him, but obviously he's not a needle mover. Malik Beasley is just an okay 3D player. He just helps that bench. The Lakers need 3-point shooting. They need defense. He provides both of those needs, but he's not going to move the needle as much. Now a team, some players very near and dear to my heart, the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, as a Phoenix Suns fan, I am very happy that Kevin Durant is a member of the Phoenix Suns. But as a Phoenix Suns fan, I also miss Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. They did so much to create a culture in Phoenix, much like Kelly Oubre. I loved watching Kelly Oubre play for the Phoenix Suns. He was part of the Valley Boys. He created a whole brand, very nice to look at on the court. And he provided a culture that we didn't have before. He was part of that team that went 8-0 in the bubble. And he's the one that got us back into contention. We eventually moved him in order to get Chris Paul. And then we got Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges to start being better players, and we went to the finals. So those two guys have created such a great culture. They're known as the Twins in Phoenix. Now they're the Twins in Brooklyn. And they look to be a great young duo. One of the greater, if that's the right word, one of the better, there we go. That's the right word, not English major. One of the better young duos in the NBA. Even if you've put Cam Thomas in, that's one of the best young trios in the NBA. Mikal Bridges is probably one of the better people. In my notes, I say Mikal Bridges is him. If you watched last night's game, you obviously have seen his performance. Right now, he's averaging 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists in 3 games with the Brooklyn Nets. But last night, he scored 45 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, dished out 5 assists, had 2 blocks and 2 steals. A great all-around player. This is a player that we would eventually expect him to become in Phoenix. Obviously, we did move him for Kevin Durant, and even as a Phoenix Suns fan, I expected him to be this eventually. And he's showing that he is very much capable of becoming the player that we all thought he was going to be. Very great defender, and he might even be a franchise guy for the Nets for many years to come. Now, Cam Johnson, another member of the trade, is averaging 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists on that team. He's a great three-point shooter. He's a decent defender. He's getting better at all these aspects. He's probably going to get a bag at the end of this season. I'm very excited to see how he shapes up. Yeah, even if he isn't a star, which some people on the Phoenix Suns were skeptical. Is he going to be a star? Is he going to be a nice role player? Because he is older. I believe we got him as a junior out of North Carolina, a junior or a senior. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But so, I mean, he's still a decent young player, averaging 15 points. That's nothing to scoff at. And finally, Cam Thomas, who went crazy and had 3 games where he scored 40 points, 40 plus points. One of those games was against the Suns right before we made that killer trade. But he's kind of leveled off. He's averaging about 20 points now in his last 5 games. But he looks to be a very key part of that future, very key part of that offense. It just looks to be one of those young guys moving forward. There's a reason why they didn't trade Mikal Bridges. There were offers that said that Memphis was offering 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. They didn't do it. Why? Because they think that they have a great young core, and that's true. The Brooklyn Nets are now built for the future. They're obviously not going to be in. I take this with a grain of salt. I don't expect them. Take this with a grain of salt. I don't expect them to be in the playoffs, but I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs. They're a great young team. With the East being the way it is, I might be able to see them sneak in, but we're just going to have to wait and see. But even then, though, next year, I mean, you get a nice young rookie, you get some veteran presence, you might be able to sneak in because those picks aren't yours. You got to remember that. So it doesn't matter what you do as a team, whether you tank, whether you win, it doesn't matter because the picks that you have are not yours. They're all based on other teams' records. So if you beat the team, you get a better pick. So I think Brooklyn is not looking to rebuild. They're just looking to restructure. I'm very excited to see what their future looks like. And they have a very bright future ahead of them. Now, talking about these teams, I talked about the Dallas Mavericks. I talked about these other teams that probably need to fill in some depth. There's still some buyout candidates available. Now, obviously, it's not going to fix terrible teams, but these aren't needle mover names, but these are obviously players that did get bought out, teams that say we have no use for you on our team. So I would take these names with a grain of salt. I mean, we have names like John Wall, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has not been officially bought out, but it's probably very likely that he will. And these names are just names that I think still have some use for some teams. I didn't put John Wall on my list just because I feel like he's a little bit past his usefulness. So Kevin Love, he still can be somewhat useful on a playoff team. Will Barton, I think he's already proven he can be very useful. Russell Westbrook, I'm a believer in Russell Westbrook. Put him on the Knicks, and I think they could be a great team. Danny Green, I believe he's going to the Cavaliers, if I'm not mistaken. Serge Ibaka, Patrick Beverley, George Hill, Dwayne Dedman. And these are second, third string guys. Obviously, they're not going to come in and be a starter, come in to be a key contributor, but they can be a part where I'd say, George Hill, I need somebody to be point guard insurance. Come into our team, just be our point guard insurance. Patrick Beverley, you're a vet. You've been to the playoffs, I believe, almost every year of his career. Help these guys get to the next hump. I mean, put them on Brooklyn, help them teach those young guys. Serge Ibaka, same thing. Will Barton, I think, is probably one of the more useful names on this list, along with Danny Green. And these people can really help elevate a team. Like we have the Phoenix Suns got Terrence Ross, and I believe that elevates our team so much more because people are complaining about our depth. Well, now we have Terrence Ross, and I don't think that depth is an issue. But with that being said, those are all the teams, all the trades I want to talk about. But now we're about to experience a huge break in NBA action, and we're going into NBA All-Star Weekend. Now, I'm pretty sure you've heard the rumors. A lot of this does not work out to be great. I mean, the skills challenge is the Giannis the Antetokounmpo brothers versus the Utah Jazz versus the rookies. It's some weird things. They're gonna be selecting teams at the game rather than like a draft beforehand. So it's gonna be like free time pickup basketball where you're picking players. I think it's gonna be pretty cool, but we'll see. I'm very skeptical about this NBA All Star Weekend because the past dunk contests have not been great. And I'm a little bit disgruntled about the 3-point contest, but I want to talk about some of the participants. In the dunk contest, you have Houston's Kenyon Martin Jr., um, Philadelphia, newly signed Philadelphia 76er, Mac McClung. He was going to be the first G League player to compete in the dunk contest, and then he got signed by the Philadelphia 76ers. I think Adam Silver nudged them and said, hey, we can't let this slide. Sign him. You can cut him later. New Orleans, Trey Murphy the third, and New York Knicks, Jericho Sims. Now, all these players can jump. Trey Murphy is pretty lanky, so he can do some pretty crazy stuff. Jericho Sims, his vertical's out of this world. Like, he's looking down at the rim like this. He's a center, but he can still jump. Kenyon Martin can jump, and Mac McClung, he's been viral in high school for a long time. We all know he can jump. I'm excited, but obviously there's no names that people are going to come in like outside of basketball and say, oh, I want to watch these guys play. Like if you said LeBron is going to be in the NBA dunk contest, people that don't usually watch basketball will watch that dunk contest. Now, for those of us who know basketball, we know that these guys are jumpers. But again, we would love to see Ja Morant in a dunk contest. We'd love to see LeBron James in a dunk contest. I think this dunk contest is going to be great, but we obviously would like to see some of those stars back in the NBA dunk contest. Now, for the 3-point contest, we have Tyrese Haliburton, Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, Kevin Huerter, Damian Lillard, Lauri Markkanen, Jason Tatum. It was going to be Anthony Simons. He's injured. And in exchange for that, they put in Julius Randle. Weird move. I mean, we have Damian Lee, who's been leading the NBA in 3-point percentage for most of the season. You have Utah Wannabe from the Brooklyn Nets, who has been shooting the lights out. I don't understand why Julius Randle gets that spot. But, we'll see. This is just a break from the NBA season. Maybe those guys were invited, but they declined. We don't know. But, yeah, that's really all I have to talk about. Thank you all for tuning in. Before you head out, like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed this content, which obviously if you made it here, you do. Please consider subscribing. It's free. And with the money you save from subscribing and probably not going on a Peacock or whatever, you can probably buy 2 eggs with the $15 you saved. In today's economy, you maybe can buy a ticket to a spring training game. Do whatever you want with your money. I don't care. What I'm saying is subscribing's free. And if you enjoyed this content, please consider doing so. But with that being said, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.